So when we go on medical missions, what can we do? And how is it that we can impact anyone long-term with a few pills, right? When we do our medical missions, obviously there's two lines of thought. One line of thought is, how much impact are you doing with short-term medical missions? Because you can't take care of long-term conditions, health conditions, right? Another line of thought is that we're there and at least we took care of that person for this amount of time with that. And we get that. Medicine is simply a tool to Jesus. It's simply a tool to Jesus. Even here in the United States, if I give you chemotherapy, I'll expand your life for a few extra years, but you need Jesus. It is a tool set that we have to Jesus. We can't take care of diabetes in Vietnam, right? We can't take care of high blood pressure long-term in Peru. We are there to show them that we love them. Yes, we can take care of, yes, we can give you sight if you're blind. I guess that's a long-term thing, right? And we do that. We're over 3,000 eye surgeries now in the last few years that we do. We fundraise here, we go back and we fundraise for there. But what can you do long-term that can impact someone's health? We can do education. We've done education in Haiti, where we taught about STD prevention. HIV is big in Haiti, right? We taught about, a lot of our nurses have given classes on breastfeeding and the importance of breastfeeding. When I was in Vietnam a month ago, I went up to Hanoi and taught physicians in Vietnam about Alzheimer's prevention. So we can do that kind of stuff. If you like education, we'll set you up with education. We do a lot of urgent care stuff. Things that you can do urgently. Antibiotics, rashes, infections, skin diseases, pain. We can definitely do urgent care things with that. But we cannot treat chronic disease because we're not there chronically, right? But here's what we do in Vietnam. And we do this with other organizations in other countries that we go to. We always try to partner with the local church. With the local church. When we're in Haiti, the local church comes and joins. When we're in Vietnam, oftentimes the local church would come to join. Same thing in Peru and the different countries we go to. Our belief is that the local church there and the people of the country are truly the heroes. Are truly the heroes. We're just kind of plugging in, right? And when we leave, they continue to be the heroes. Right? We're not like coming in, rescuing, saving, right? We're plugging in. But we want to lift up and partner always with the local church. We're not the heroes. We're just there as hands and feet and servants of Jesus. It's interesting in Vietnam, because in Vietnam, the government does not trust the church. The church does not trust the government because Christians are persecuted in Vietnam. In Vietnam, if you go and you preach on the street, you go straight to jail. Straight to jail. Right? So how do we do it as a faith-based organization? Well, we go and we just love. When we do our clinics in Vietnam, we have the government's permission. We always need the government's permission. So the government shows up to our clinic, and the church shows up to our clinic often. And both sides don't trust each other, right? But when the church and the government is working in our clinic, and we're going from station to station, we got a station for the check-in station where you're doing vital signs, blood pressure, the HPI. That's where I put my students, my high schoolers sit up there. We teach them how to do blood pressures and all that. Then they go from that station to the physician station or to the nurse station. A lot of our nurses, if they're comfortable, can do basic diagnosis and treatment, and they have the docs there anyway if they need help, right? So a lot of our RNs A lot of RNs in Haiti, in Vietnam, and Peru, they actually see patients if they're comfortable. To the level of your competency and training. To the level of your competency and training. We actually don't want you to practice out of scope, right? Because that's just not good for the patients and for us and for everyone else. But to the level of your comfort and your training, you can actually see patients. Our nurses see patients all the time in third world countries. So they go from that station, then they go to the pharmacy station where they get their meds. We often bring our own medications. When we go to Haiti, suitcases of medications. Every doctor and nurse got 2 suitcases of medications because we don't trust the Haitian meds and they don't trust their own meds, right? And so that's kind of our pharmacy station. We have a 4th station. We have a 4th station at our clinics in the third world, and that's the prayer station. That's the prayer station. For those who are interested in prayer, the local church would be there to pray with them. And our nurses and doctors will pray with them also, for those who are interested in prayer. That's how we plug in our faith. We are not a group that goes out to hand out tracts or spiritual laws and things of that sort. We're just a medical team. And so we plug in our faith in our medical clinics. Station number 4 is the prayer station. And when you run out of meds, station number 4 is really popular. Everybody's go pray, right? We're out of meds. But anyway, so that's how we incorporate our spirituality. And the neat thing is this. When Tung Out leaves Vietnam, the church and the government have been in the same room. And the church says, you guys aren't that bad. And the government looks at the church and goes, you guys aren't that bad. And they shake hands. We open doors for the church. And it allows the church to come back and do more activities in the location. Because Tongue Out is just a door opener for the church to come in. And that's kind of our mission with that. Yeah. What are we supposed to talk about today? Are we still at that? All right, guys. Let's see here.
Dr. Trinh, I have a question.
Yes.
About the doctor who was mentoring.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a bit.
The physician who was my mentor. Yes, his name is Dr. Rex Ailing, and he's a pediatrician. He was at the time the director of Orange County Public Health. Orange County Public Health. He was the director. And we just kind of met up. We met up every 3-4 months, had a meal, and he talked about what he's doing, and I talked about what I was doing in high school. And then he took me to his meetings, and then I just really admired him and learned about medicine, and I went and I volunteered at the hospitals with that. And he was Catholic, he was a believer, and it was kind of a pretty neat route toward the healthcare field. Rex Ailing, he's now up in Sacramento, and unfortunately his wife just passed away from Alzheimer's a few weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. I'm still in touch with him after all this time. Yeah. Yes.
I'm curious, you get teenagers or college age, very self-centered, pampered, anybody in America, and you get them to go, and you're going, and it's tough, and they got to walk, and they're seeing people with all kinds of diseases they're not used to. Some of them probably are not believers when they go. But obviously you are a faith-based Christian. Have you seen a number of them that
Great.
come to Christ through this?
Great question. We take a lot of teenagers, we take a lot of high schoolers and college. Many are not believers, yes. Many of our doctors are not believers. I've taken Muslim physicians with me. I've taken Buddhist physicians and atheists, simply because they are into the humanitarian aspect of our work, right? But we are faith-based. So, although Tongue Out is all about taking care of the least of these in the third world, let me give you a little secret. Our second objective is to reach out to our volunteers, especially our students. Especially our students. Many of our students, when they come back from a trip, they automatically sign up for the next trip. And the next trip, most of our students have been with me to Haiti, to Peru, to Vietnam, to Houston, Texas for the flood. Many of our students are the same students who've been with me around the world. And my goal is really to train the next leaders who are servant leaders. I started this nonprofit called Tongue Out. So it's like sticking your tongue out, and I don't even know why I call it that. I think it's the PTSD from the war, right? Walking around with our tongues out, right? And the funny thing is, with Tongue Out, we're not really good at fundraising. Once a year we have a gala. That was about a month ago, and in our gala we actually packed it. We filled 530 seats. It was filled, and in that gala, we are faith-based, obviously. In that gala, of the 530 that came, Mom brought 200 Buddhists to come support us. And so I basically am with Memorial Care, as many of you guys know. I'm with, have you guys heard of Bristol Park Medical Group?
Yes.
Bristol Park prior to Memorial Care, prior to 2010, and the collaboration. But I have been in full-time practice since medical school, since leaving residency, and had been with Bristol Park. And I was on the board of directors, I was on the executive committee, I had my own office that I was the medical director of, up to 2017. In 2017, I was out of the country 6 times a year as a medical missionary. And I started Tongue Out only about 5 years ago. But we were just growing by leaps and bounds. People were just joining the team. Our teams are 30 people when we go on a group trip. Right? Melanie just came back with us to Vietnam. We were there about a month ago. And in Vietnam, we had so many people signed up, over 50, that I had to split the team in half. And that's how large we are growing at a rapid pace. Just through, we don't even have an office, guys. We're just on the cloud on social media. Is how we do our stuff. But our growth is 100% God. Our growth is 100% God. So in 2017, I was the medical director of my office. So we had 10 doctors, we had a staff of 40, many nurses, labs, x-rays, and things of that sort. How many of you guys here are with Memorial Care? All right, awesome. Yay. Kaiser's cool too. But anyway, so I personally felt really guilty because I wasn't in the office that often. And this was even in 2016, 2015. I was taking teams to Vietnam. I took teams to Haiti. I took teams to Peru when Hurricane. I was in Katrina, but when 2 years ago, Hurricane Harvey. Remember Hurricane Harvey? When Hurricane Harvey hit 2 years ago, in 1 week, we gathered a group of 43 to Tongue Out. We flew out to Houston, Texas, doctors, nurses, and a lot of high schoolers, and we were out there. But I was out of the office so often that I stepped down in 2017 from my medical directorship, from being a professor at UC Irvine, and doing all that stuff with Memorial Care and leadership to really become a missionary. I now am really just a public speaker. I kind of go around and quack, you know, about different things. And I'm doing obviously clinical research, and I'm with Alzheimer's in Orange County. I wear multiple hats, and I speak a lot for memorial care as well. But in 2017, I became more of a missionary. And that's my why. I wanted to show you a little bit, so we can get you right on time for break. I want to show you a little bit of a video. Want to see a video of our trip? Yeah. All right, I'll show you a trip. This was a 2018 trip. We just got back a few weeks ago from Vietnam, so I didn't have a chance to create a video for that. But in 2018, we were in Vietnam. We took a team of, I guess, close to 30, which is our typical trip. And we saw and hugged patients who had leprosy. We always go to leprosy centers because in Vietnam, when you're a leper, it doesn't matter whether you've been treated or not. It doesn't matter whether you're still transmittable or not. You still end up in a leprosy colony until you're dead. Because communist government, they do not want to see lepers out in society. Patients with leprosy, Jesus loves, and we love. So we go there and we make sure that every patient who have leprosy at the colony gets a hug. Because they're considered the untouchables. So we validate who they are by touching them, by hugging them, by taking selfies with them. We validate who they are because Jesus knows their name. Jesus knows their name. So that was one of our projects in Vietnam. Another project in Vietnam was eye surgeries. We like to provide sight to those who are blind. And so we fund the surgeries, and we bring in partners who are ophthalmologists to do surgeries for them. This past trip, we did 258 eye surgeries between the two for the blind. We do medical clinics. We do a lot of stuff with kids and children. We're always up in the highlands. We usually hike to the highlands. We drive up there, and then we hike a little bit to the rest of where we go, where we deliver goods and supplies and toys and school stuff and to the kids. So I'm going to give you a glimpse of our trip in 2018 with Dung. Strategies to fund your trip. Okay, how to make it like just the picture. This is not good for Asian IT. It's not good. It's supposed to like be teaching this stuff. Yes. So 100% of my daughter's team versus 100%. I love that. Oh my word. Okay, let's see. We need a few more physicians in here, guys. I'm just kidding. So how do we fund this, right? We were just in Vietnam in July. We did 258 eye surgeries, so I wrote a check for that, right? It was a lot. How do we fund that? That was over $10,000 for all that in July. And here's our patients. This is post-op. They have to lie down so that the cataract doesn't kind of move around after that. This is our post-op patients kind of hanging around with that. And then we had a water filtration system that we brought to Vietnam. It was made in the USA. In Vietnam, water, fresh, clean water, just like other third world countries, is a huge issue. Problems with, infections related to poor water, like cholera, diarrhea, different types of stuff like that, malnutrition. So we actually built this little system here. You see this little water system? This little water system here was built here. It was shipped over. It was a $15,000 project. And we installed it at this school that had over 150 students so that they could drink water. Prior to that, they were drinking water from streams and rivers and things of that sort. And this has the capacity, not just for the kids in the school, this has the capacity for the entire village. 1,500 people a day was how much water that this system was able to produce, which is pretty cool. And then we went to our orphanages. I see Caitlin here. Caitlin here is Andrea's daughter over there. Caitlin's been on 6 trips with us. She's at the orphanages along with our other folks here at the orphanage. When we go to orphanages, we bring school supplies, we bring nutritional stuff, vitamins and things of that sort. This is our orphanage. This is arts and crafts. This is why my high schoolers love to come, because it's Arts and Craft Day with the students and the orphans. This is our team here. This is team 1. We have 2 teams. We have to split it into 2 teams with that. That's our orphanage work there. And each orphanage we go to, we spend a few $100s at least to buy them supplies. And we hit probably 4 or 5 orphanages in one day with that. We raised funds for a playground project at one of our orphanages. They had a playground, but the floor was pretty bad. This was the floor. And we raised about $1,500 to essentially give them some tiles. And this is the tiles that was built probably a few weeks ago. It was done with that. So that was a project we did. Our medical clinics cost money because we have to buy the medications, right? And that's a significant amount of money as well. These are the patients who are there. And our students are sitting up front doing vital signs up here. And we got folks and showing patients around. You know what's interesting is that in Vietnam, they're not very Christian friendly. So, you know, you can't preach on the streets, you can't do certain things. But over the years, the government knows us now because we're back there all the time, every year. So, what they allow us to do now is they allow us to have our banners up that says, God loves Vietnam. This was not allowed a few years ago. This was not allowed a few years ago. We have these large banners that says, God loves Vietnam when we do our work. To introduce folks and let folks know that we are there because God loves them. And that's something through relationship over time. By the way, this long word here says something about communism's great or something like that. And we have God loves Vietnam right underneath there. Yeah, that was really hilarious. And our leprosy ministry, we deliver stuff like wheelchairs. We buy wheelchairs, we deliver wheelchairs to our patients. This month ago, we brought students that came back and played the ukulele, and played instruments and did a little performance for our students in Vietnam, or for our lepers in Vietnam. And this is us with the Vietnam team. Here's the wheelchairs that we did the trip prior to this one. We bought a whole bunch of wheelchairs for our leprosy patients. Water wells is something we do. I just took UC Irvine in March, and we dug a water well. We named it after UCI. See the UCI there? Yeah. And it's got UCI, and it has tongue out, and we named it after UCI. And this water well was hooked up to another elementary school where, again, kids were just drinking from the streams with that. So this is interesting. A few months ago, UEC, which is United Exchange Corp, large organization right here in Cyprus, they donated all these medications to tongue out. And I'm telling you this because I'm just saying God provide. I have nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with it. They donated all these medications to tongue out. They, I guess they supply all types of products to Walmart, to Target, to the large chain stores. And the founder of United Exchange Corp is now a tongue out family member. And so what do we do with all this? What we did was we shipped an entire container to Haiti and an entire container to Vietnam. We filled up a container of meds and shipped to 2 locations. The Haiti guys received it already, and this is the container being delivered and removed in Haiti here. All the medical supplies being taken off. Our partners in Haiti are Christians. They're part of our church, and so we delivered it to a church that received it. And the Haitians are now using our medications in their medical clinics with ton-out meds with that. What did I have to do with it? Nothing. Yes?
How do you keep, because we have interactions at my church with the Haiti mission, and when we go for our missions, we don't bring a lot of stuff with us because they confiscated it on arrival. How do you keep your stuff from being confiscated?
How does it not get, we bring it in our own luggages.
But they, even if you do that, they'll confiscate stuff.
We've been good. We just pour our luggage right through. Oh, by the way, we hand them a few bucks, and then we flow right through. And then it goes right through. And then it goes right through. That's how we get it through. Yes, so we bring our meds, and everything goes through. So this is in Haiti. But let me tell you about Vietnam. Our container is stuck at the port in Vietnam. Why? Because it's a communist government, and because there's bribery, and because they want extra dollars under the table, right? Our container is stuck in Vietnam. It's been stuck there for about a month because of all these additional bribery money. It's very interesting. And this is the reality of it, right? This is the reality of a missions trip. It never goes as planned. It never goes as planned. The first lesson in missions is flexibility. Right? You never know. You have your plans, God has his plans. Right? You have your plans, God has his plans. But let me show you something. How much did all this cost? And how do we fund it? Right? How do you run a missions organization, or how do you volunteer and find funding for your volunteering? It's a reality question, right? I mean, yes, we have faith, but how do we do this? I have a breakdown for you. Eye surgeries, actually over 10,000. Water filtration, 15,000. Schools, different things. Shipment costs to Haiti was about $5,000 just to put it on a boat. To Vietnam, it's about the same, just to put it on a boat, and it's stuck there, right? So it's about $40,000 in the last few months, the stuff. And how do we fund this? And not only that, we go to Haiti. We have projects in Haiti. We have projects in Peru. We're leaving for Peru. We're going to Mexico. By the way, Dung has no sponsoring church. We actually have no sponsors. We are funded by just individuals who go to our website and just donate, right? How do we fund all this? I mean, obviously, we didn't get $40,000 of donations in the last month. No, we didn't. Yeah. The only thing I can tell you is God. I'll tell you personally my story of how we personally fundraise. We don't really fundraise, but many of us have tried different techniques. How many of you guys have done GoFundMe or have supported GoFundMe, right? How many of us have donated to a Facebook fundraiser, right? How many of us have mailed letters to support to family and friends? A lot of us do that. Or email now, actually, right? And how many of us have asked for donations at church? If God's not guiding, he won't provide. It's really simple to me. If we have a God who's a heavenly Father, who owns the universe, who owns all the resources, if he's guiding, he'll provide. That's not an easy answer though, right? That's kind of like abstract. How do you make it more practical? But it's the truth. Where God guides, God provides. If he's not guiding, it won't be provided. I got that from Pastor Chuck. But let me show you how we funded our projects. And And this is really my story. This is not the way to fundraise. This is just what we do. First of all, we know that where God guides, He will provide, even if it came and dropped out of heaven, right? God's going to provide if it's in His plan, no matter what. Always start first with seeking His will and His purpose. That's always the first place to start. Because if we're not in His will, if Peru is not in His will, if Vietnam is not in His will, if it's not in His purpose, what's the point, right? We want to follow under wherever He's leading. So that's number one. Seek first His God will, His purpose through prayer. And then never put God in a box of how He will work. God doesn't always work through GoFundMe or through letters to churches, right? God's going to work however He works. How does He work through tongue out? Well, first thing I want to tell you, I'm going to give you a blueprint of how we are funded. First of all, don't believe a word I say, because it's just my story. It's just my story. It may not be your story, right? It's just my experience. Take what applies to you, integrate it, and if it doesn't apply to you, disregard it. It's just really my story of how Tongue Out is provided. So since we have multiple trips a year, I certainly can't create 10 GoFundMes for every trip, right? That's just not realistic. By the way, we all fund our own ways. Each doctor, each nurse, each student fund their own way. For the students, we will promote their GoFundMes on our Facebook page for our donors to donate. Or we teach them how to buy and sell things. So for myself, God sent me a coach. And through the coach, we launched a business. And we are using a business to fund my missions work. We're using a business to fund my missions work. How many of you guys have ran businesses before? Okay. How many of you guys know what it takes to get a product, to market it, and to sell it? Oh yeah, quite a bit of work, right? Not fun. What did you sell in the past? Anything? So in a traditional business model, right? If you were to, let's say you needed to raise funds for your missions trip, and you've already sent out 3 GoFundMe letters, and you sent out all your letters, and everything's been sent out, and you got some donations, but you want to go on the next trip in 3 months. You can't send out the same letter, right? Or the same GoFundMe, because those folks that already donated, they've seen that letter. So what we did was we needed to create a business to sustain our missions. Because we can't send 6 GoFundMe letters and donations letter for every trip if we're going 6 times a year through Tongue Out. Make sense? In a traditional business, if you had to buy and sell something, oftentimes you will spend days, weeks, and months to do some market research, right? What is the perfect product that I want to sell? And then you got to find your source, right? You got to go and find a wholesaler. Where to, can I buy it in LA with the wholesaler? Do I go to China to get my stuff? And then you got to buy from the wholesaler a whole bunch of inventory of whatever you want to sell. We call that the MOQ, which is the minimum order requirement. Anyone ever bought anything from a wholesaler? They don't want you to just buy one product or one item from a wholesaler, right? They want you to buy 5,000 units, 10,000 units, because they're a wholesaler. You can't just go and buy one thing from them. This is the traditional business model. So, and then you gotta find a place to store your stuff, right? Storage space, if it's not your garage, you gotta find a warehouse and things of that sort. And you gotta spend some money, right? Spend some money on storage space, and then tons of money go into advertising. How do you market your widget, your product to sell, to raise funds for your missions trip? Right? Do you market it on Facebook? Do you send out flyers? Do you put it in the newspaper? How do you market this kind of stuff? And then you need customer service. got a phone number and employees, and then if somebody actually buys it from you, then you gotta fulfill it. You gotta pack it, right? Go to the post office and ship it. It is tough starting a business, which is why this isn't really traditional model to do your missions work, right? Not the traditional model. And then you have to pray that your perfect product sells. Otherwise, you're in the hole, right? And that's the traditional business. In a traditional business, there are some limitations, because if you have a store, right, your store is local. Who are your customers? Local. Whoever can come by your store, right? They're local. And so it's limited. Your customers are the only ones who can basically create your sales revenue. And then you have your storefront costs. Rent, utilities, inventory, you gotta pay your salary employees, right? And by the way, you're stuck working at your store now, right? You gotta run that business and make sure it works. So where do you find time to do missions work now that you got a store open? High startup expense. What we did was we funded our missions work through e-commerce. Ever heard of Amazon? Have you guys bought stuff? Who's bought stuff on Amazon before? Oh my word. Who's bought stuff through Amazon Prime? How many Prime members? Free shipping, right? Have you heard of eBay and Etsy and Shopify and Facebook? We fund Tongue Out missions through e-commerce. I'm going to tell you exactly how we do it. And by the way, I've never listed a product on Amazon before. I don't even know how. Oops, wrong button. When you go on e-commerce, guys, do you have a local storefront or do you have a global storefront? Should be global. When you're on e-commerce like eBay or Amazon, your customer base, right? My customer base is 350 million Americans. I no longer have a local store. You can do this for eBay, you can do this for Etsy, right? By the way, I don't look for a perfect product. I actually sell them all. I sell everything. I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm going to show you how you do it with absolutely almost no cost. And this just works for me. I don't know if it's going to work for you, but this is how I fund Tongue Out. By the way, many of us, when we start, the first thing we think is, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to market. I don't know how to find a product. I don't know how to list anything on Amazon. The truth is, I don't know how either. I've never listed anything on Amazon, but I sell things on Amazon. I don't ask how, I ask who. Who do I think can do this, and how can they partner with me? How can I bring my teenage kid to help out, right? The millennial who's good with social media and the computer, right? So mindset is everything in starting a business. Mindset is everything in success in general, right? Everything starts with mindset. Because what we think determines what we feel, determines what we do, and that determines our result. Our result starts with our mind, how we think and what we think, right? This is a mindset. Next year, I'm going to start doing some lectures on mindset and successful thinking. Here are some advantages when I started my Amazon store, guys. First of all, I have no overhead because I don't have rent space. Make sense? I don't have rent space. I don't have utilities. I don't have employees that have to go to my office. Second thing, my storefront is global, isn't it? I'm no longer a store at the swap meet selling to whoever walks by. I'm selling to 350 million Americans. As a matter of fact, I'm selling to folks in Europe, in Japan, in China, in South America. And I'm not stuck to my office. I work from my laptop. I work from my laptop. This is actually what allowed me to step down from a full-time practice to do missions work. My startup cost is minimal, and my buyers, they all want to go to online now and buy stuff, don't they? How do we know that? Because stores are closing in the mall. What have you seen close lately? Sears? What else? Macy's? Right? Stores are closing in the mall. It's kind of sad, actually, to see that, because I'm used to seeing the mall, I'm used to all the stores I go to, and there's closing. Why is that? Because we're all going on Amazon, right? We want that convenience. That's the advantage of e-commerce. How much did it cost me to start? How many products do you have? I got 3,000 products. Okay, you have pictures? Yes. You have descriptions of those products already? Yes. So, guess how many products my Amazon store is selling now? 3,000 items. I listed it on no cost. Does that make sense? Mile wide, inch deep. Does that make sense? Now, so I'm no longer selling one product, I'm selling a mall, because I have 3,000 products to sell. At 5 years with 4th Medical Battalion, although unfortunately in the Marines there are actually no medics. The medics were with the Navy, and our role was basically to hold an M16 and protect them. Yeah. So yes, it's and the reason I joined the Marines was simply I was really grateful for our veterans. I was really grateful for our servicemen, for the military, and it was a way to give back at the time. And the 5 years until I entered medical school. Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And also, your dad, you haven't mentioned how your dad was with the family, and are your dad and mom still compatible despite their...
Great question. Dad. Question is, what happened to Dad in the story? The whole reason we were allowed to be rescued on a helicopter, because obviously not everyone is given that opportunity to be rescued on a helicopter, was because back then my dad spoke English and he worked for the American military. He was a translator, and he went and did some translation stuff. And because they knew that the war was ending, any Vietnamese who worked for Americans obviously weren't going to survive. And so because of that, we were given a ticket to escape and to be flown out. So Dad caught up with us on his own. He wasn't on the helicopter because he was still working. Dad was still working, but Dad caught up with us at Camp Pendleton. Yeah, I don't know how we were just putting each other's names on this board, like missing people, we're looking for this and that, and one day we saw Dad's name and he was looking for us and we found him, and it was just a God thing. Yeah. It was really just a God thing.
So are your parents still together?
Parents are still together. My parents live 7 doors from me. And my brother lives 2 doors from me. It's one of those community, cultural thing. But parents are still together. Mom does her Buddhist thing at the pagoda during the day and the weekends. And but she sleeps at home, and we come and we hang out. And what was interesting was when I first became a believer, this was in high school, and the route to become a believer was an interesting route. Back then, I was a teenager, and I was hanging out with friends, and one friend had a book, and that book had an interesting title. It was called World War III and the Destiny of America. And, you know, teenage boy, World War III, wow, cool, right? And I was interested in, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I took my friend's book and I wanted to read it because it was a World War III book. And I read it. It was a Bible prophecy book. It was somebody predicting the book of Revelations. You know how it's going to end, and the seven trumpets and the seals. And I was like, oh, holy moly! This, you know, is this how it's going to end? And it was interesting because that led me to be curious about how there's a creator who created this world, and how there's the book called the Bible who predicted the end of the world, right? So the first book that I've ever read in the Bible was the book of Revelations. It's not recommended to start. But it was attached to the Bible prophecy book, because everything in this Bible prophecy was in the book of Revelation. So I had to go through the book of Revelation to read up on it. And it was interesting how there's a God who predicted the end, and, you know, this is the end. And that led me to my curiosity about Jesus. And so one evening in Santa Ana on Greenville Street, right next to Santa Ana Valley High, I was sitting in the porch. It was about 9 p.m. in the front porch on a chair, and it was a cool night. So I wanted to learn more about God. Somebody gave my sister a new King James version of the Bible, because they wanted to ask her to go to church. She didn't go to church, but she had this King James little small thing. And so one night I decided to sit in the front porch, and that night I went through the entire book of John, from the beginning to end. I just wanted to learn about Jesus. And by the time I was done with the book of John, I was a believer. There was no church, there was no sinner's prayer, there was nothing. It was just the scriptures. I went through the book of John, I was done, I believed. And that was interesting, because when I told Mom, it all went downhill. Because it was like, are you in a cult now? And it was persecution for years, because it wasn't just a religious break from the family tree, it was a cultural break from the entire culture of our background, our heritage. So for years, it was like, you either call me Mom, or if you follow Jesus, don't call me Mom, right? If you are a Christian, you're not part of this family. That went on for years. Every time I was persecuted, though, guess what I did?
Pray.
I prayed. The persecution led me to God. Every time I was persecuted, I went to my room and prayed every time. So I actually got closer to my spirituality. By the way, I never went to church for years. Never went to Bible studies for years. Wasn't allowed to, right? Wasn't allowed to. So my only spiritual growth was this. At night, when people are asleep, I went to the bathroom, closed the door, sat in the toilet, and read my Sixers Bible. It was an all King James version. It was an all King James version, but I didn't know any different, right? I didn't know the NIV, I didn't know any different. It was all King James, and all I did was I went through and I read all the red lettering, right? Because I wanted to see what Jesus said, right? So I went through the entire Bible and I read everything that was red. And I grew spiritually on my own for years. And which is why I really don't have any denomination. I'm just a believer. I'm not Baptist or whatever, right?
You don't need it. You just need Jesus.
Yeah, and it was how I grew spiritually until I was able to drive when I went to UC Irvine as undergraduate. And once I was able to drive around, then I snuck over to Calvary Chapel with Pastor Chuck. Yeah, and then I grew up through Pastor Chuck. But mom is now completely open. She supports our work. She's still Buddhist, it's her heritage. But she supports our work so much. Have you heard of Free Wheelchair Mission? Where they go and they deliver free wheelchairs around the world, right? She supports our work so much that she was a Buddhist representing Free Wheelchair Mission in Vietnam. She took Christian-based Free Wheelchair Mission and she took these wheelchairs to Vietnam and delivered it. It's so crazy. And she's a Buddhist. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's all God, right? Whatever it is, it's all God. Yes? My uncle in Vietnam, he's still in Vietnam, he's still in the temple, he's still a Buddhist monk. So is the rest of my family. Yes, I have family in Vietnam still, that's right. Yeah.
Are you still friends with your sponsor?
My sponsor passed away. Yeah, her name was Marjorie Christensen. Yes, we called her Grandma, definitely.
And how did your dad come to faith? Did you bring him, or?
My dad, we brought him to church to the Vietnamese services with Calvary Chapel. And he bonded with the folks there, and he became friends, and he goes to church every Sunday now. Definitely, that's how he became. And it's the same with my sisters and brothers. We were exposed eventually to God's love. It's really His love that draws us, and His grace. Why are the orphans orphans in Vietnam? Well, they're the same reason they're orphans in Peru when we go to Peru or to Haiti. Because in third world countries, they're not always orphans where the parents die. Sometimes they're economic orphans. Sometimes they're economic orphans where you have your kids, you can't take care of them. In Vietnam, every Buddhist pagoda is an automatic orphanage. The parents drop them off and take off, and the Buddhist nuns end up taking care of them with that. Yeah, academically, back then, I guess if you showed up to class, you're valedictorian. If you didn't get shot, things of that sort back in Santa Ana Valley, and so back then, I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do. They had a program at Santa Ana College, a mentorship program, where mentors were able to hook up with students who were underprivileged. And growing up at Santa Ana back in the 80s, Vietnamese, I guess I fell in that category. And my mentor at the time was a physician. And so I volunteered. I went to the hospitals and volunteered as a 16-year-old kid, taking vital signs and stuff in the ER, and it kind of led toward that route. I forgot your second question already. It's not good for an Alzheimer's. Not good for an Alzheimer's.
What made you specialize in
Normal memory loss or short-term memory loss? Short-term. Maybe short-term. I need a brain scan. How did I get into Alzheimer's? 17 years at Bristol Park and Memorial Care. My office was very close to Laguna Woods. 99% of my patients were seniors. 99%. 17 years of taking care of seniors. I was really good at lowering heart disease, getting them their statins, their beta blockers, right? ACE inhibitors. I was really good with diabetes, right? Metformin, diabetic diet. I was really good with stroke prevention. I was sending everyone for their colonoscopies, the stool cards, all that lovely stuff, right? Mammograms. We were doing really good with health maintenance. But every time I made a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, I knew it was a one-direction road. It was a one-way road. And I saw my patients through the entire spectrum, because I knew these patients over 17 years. I knew them when they came in and drove in and had great conversations with me. With their families, we were joking, laughing. And then I saw the change over time. Aricept didn't work, Namenda didn't work, right? The patch didn't work. And I signed their death certificates. And I was doing that monthly. It's the third leading cause of death in Orange County. I was signing death certificates in my own patients monthly. I was devastated. I was able to do everything else except make a difference in Alzheimer's. So when I retired in 2017 from clinical practice, when I stepped down to become more of a missionary, I wanted to make a difference in Alzheimer's. I wanted to make a dent, and that's how I got into clinical research.